Welcome to this course on instructional technologies. You know, I can obviously, as an introduction to this course, start in many directions, but I'm going to start with the idea of thinking outside the box. And with instructional technologies, that's rather necessary. I found through the years of being involved in this that people often get stuck with the instance and not the purpose. And you see throughout the centuries, people often get stuck there and take the instance as the bigger picture. An example that some of you might have heard of was when we switched from mechanical watches with the mainspring and all those moving parts inside. When we switched from that to digital watches, the initial guy who developed it obviously went straight back to the Swiss because they were the watchmakers and said, you know, check this out, what do you think? They gave it one look and said, no, we're not interested, go away. He said, why not? This is so cool, this is the future, it's more accurate, and on and on and on. He says, this thing doesn't have a mainspring. We are the world's best makers of mainsprings, and no, we can't go there. So obviously then he went to Texas Instruments and Seiko. They produced digital watches, and the rest is history. So very clearly they mistook the mechanical telling of time as the only way, and electronically, today that's the way. So another interesting example I want to mention from the field of medicine. There's a as we understand bacteria, we in medicine have constantly looked at antibiotics as the way to deal with bacteria. And I visited with a research company in northern Utah, and they worked at a university doing their research there. So the guy said to me, we knew, for example, that cranberry juice is really effective in dealing with bladder infections, but we didn't know why, and we didn't know quite how much cranberry juice do you need. So they studied it in a lab, and they found out something very interesting. The E. coli bacteria that adheres to the lining of the bladder and causes this infection, obviously your traditional thinking would be get some antibiotics down there, kill them all, that'll take care of it. They found that with cranberry juice, but in a much higher concentrate than just the juice you buy in the store, it clogs up their little suckers, so they cannot attach to the lining of the bladder, and so you just flush them out. Think of it, the soldiers are coming, instead of shooting at them, you soap the floor and they all fall and you throw a net over them, and there you go, you got them. So really an interesting experience to see how we can think differently about things. And in fact, with technology, and especially instructional technology, it's very important to think deeply, to think about what it is that you're really trying to do, not how can we use this tool best. That's not your first question. So in that case, if you think of what you're really trying to do, sometimes it's really good to go with old, tried and true, tested methodologies. It really works well. And sometimes you want to try something new, and you realize with technology, often especially with the virtual world and cyberspace as we know it, it creates interesting possibilities, many of them that have still to be culturally fully accepted and so forth. And speaking about cultural acceptance, that is true too. Sometimes you have a technology that is culturally fully accepted, and if you want to do something else, people should push you back to the cultural way that they're doing it. And technology actually brings about great cultural change, and sometimes, to be honest, you are pressured into using technology because culturally that's what people expect and what they want. So there is a very definite issue with expectations, and if you go in a different direction, often you fight culture, and culture wins every time. That's the interesting reality we face. Culture wins every time. So you've got to respect culture where you go. So, a quick view of where we're going with this course. You might expect we're just going to dive right into the different technologies and lift the hood and dig in right away. To empower you best, we will be dealing with some theoretical understanding of the field. And I know that sounds very dry, but it's really not. It's really not. It's very exciting, in fact. I've done many years of research specifically in this field, so I feel very excited about sharing what I've discovered and so forth. So we'll take a look at communication, such an essential part of instruction. We'll take a look at the objectives of education. So what are we trying to do? Where's the focus? And if you understand that broad, and this is a really broad brushstroke perspective, once we understand that very well, then we start looking at models and theories of instruction. So I'm going really wide, really broad as I can. Look at that big picture, then look at models of instruction, and then with the broad framework that you've got, you can say, yeah, this theory really will work well here, and so forth. Now, obviously, it's one semester. It's not a year or, a whole, your whole degree is not based on this. So I understand the level and depth that we can delve into is limited in some respect, but adequate that you can really get a great grasp of the field. So step back again. We'll start with a broad view of the whole interaction of communication, of the objectives of education, and I say this is a very broad stroke. Then we'll deal more specifically with instructional theories and models, and that's the point where we'll start looking at specifics in technology. So then you'll see we'll take a systematic sweep through the field of technological options and genres and categories and so forth, and make decisions, so that by the end of the year you'll definitely have a far greater capacity to judge well. To me, that's the important thing here, is that you have that you can be a very good judge, that you can be relied upon to understand deeper and better as you look at this. I hope you enjoy the course, and I really encourage you to not follow a, how shall I put it, how many pills do I need to swallow today approach, and basically just try to be compliant with what's required. I would really want you to understand where we're going, but to show your own curiosity, because this is for you. This is not just to check the box for the course. In this environment, you really want to show that you understand for yourself. This is formative to your career and your future. So in that sense, I really appeal to you to dig in and be curious and explore and understand deeply, and not just try to do exactly what I say and no more. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy it.